Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the differences between object and edit mode in Blender. So, in the past few videos we've been working in object mode, which is basically your ability to manipulate your objects around the scene. So, here at the start screen of Blender, I have a mesh object, a light object, and a camera object. And within object mode, I can tell I'm in that by looking down the bottom left of the screen right here. It says I'm in object mode. There I'm able to maneuver my objects in space. Now if I want to edit an object, that is where I'll have to toggle out of object mode and into edit mode. So with the cube selected, I'm going to hit Tab on my keyboard, and you'll notice that by hitting Tab, I have toggled into edit mode. Now in edit mode, I'm unable to select these objects that are outside of the cube because edit mode locks you into the object you have selected. So for example, if I make another cube in the scene and I go into edit mode in this cube, you'll notice that only the elements of this cube are selectable, while all of my other objects in the scene, I can't do anything with them. So the reason you would go into edit mode is so that you can start to transform the geometries of what you're trying to model. So if I toggle into edit mode with this cube, I now have the ability to select the faces, the edges, and the vertices of this cube. And just like I showed you in the other video where we grabbed, rotated, and scaled objects in object mode, I can do the same thing in edit mode with my vertices, my edges, and my faces. So if I select a face and I grab it, you'll notice that when I move the face, only the face that I have selected moves. Nothing else on the cube does. And that's how you begin to transform your geometries. I can also scale the face. You'll notice that only the face I have selected is scaling. Or I can rotate the face. And you'll notice that the edges attached to the vertices of that face are also following it. To swap between vertice, edge, and face selection, there's this little tool palette down here where you can select which mode you'd like to be in. So here's face selection, edge selection, and vertice selection. But the hotkey for that is Control Tab, and that'll bring up a little selection menu that allows you to choose which element you'd like to grab. One of the main differences between object and edit mode is that in edit mode you actually gain access to a few more commands. So within object mode we know we can grab, scale, and rotate. In edit mode we can also grab, scale, and rotate. But two more very important components of edit mode are the ability to extrude and inset. So if I revert what I've done to this cube, I'll get it back to normal. If I want to add geometry to this cube, I have to make what is known as an extrusion. So I'm going to grab this face and hit E on my keyboard for extrude, and I can begin to pull that face up. Now an extrude is different from a grab because you'll notice this boundary here, this little line that's dividing my geometry, that is because I have added geometry to the cube. If I undo that extrude and I just grab and pull that face up, even though it looks the same, you'll notice that there isn't that little line that's dividing the cube in half. That's because I haven't added any extra geometry by pulling it. I've only stretched it. If you look up at the top of your window, you'll see that the vertices, the edges, and the faces can all be counted per object. So in this object, I have 8 vertices, 12 edges, and 6 faces. This is important information when you're trying to keep your poly count low. And basically what that means is the more polygons you have in a scene, the longer it takes to render, or if you're trying to export to a game engine, that increases a lot of load on the engine that you import the geometry to. So if I make an extrusion, you'll see that these numbers all went up. My vertices went to 12, my edges went to 20, and my faces went to 10. The next command I want to show you is inset. If I hit I and move my mouse in, you'll see that one of the faces has been pulled into itself. What that allows is for you to break up faces into smaller components and then manipulate those smaller components within the face. An inset is basically a macro for extrude and then scale. If I simply extrude this face, escape out so I don't make any adjustments to it, and then scale that face in, that is the exact same function of an inset. However, it's a lot easier if I just type I and move it in. So it's not really important to know that distinction, but it can help clear a few things up if you're wondering what the difference between an extrusion and an inset is. So then if I extrude that face up, you'll see that I've added more geometry to the scene, and this extrusion is only of the face that was inset. So I'm just going to go crazy here for a sec. I'm going to inset this face, extrude it out, inset this face, extrude it out, inset, extrude. And you'll notice that even when I'm extruding or pulling these geometries, I can still assign them to an axis, either by holding down the middle mouse wheel. That will allow me to choose which axes I'm locked to, or by actually typing Z, X, or Y. So that carries out throughout all of Blender. Inset, extrude. Let's say I'm happy with how this object is turning out, so I don't want to edit anymore. I can hit Tab, and that takes me back to object mode, and you'll now see that all of the changes I made within edit mode have been saved. They're locked into the object, and I can now go about my business of editing my lamp or my camera, or even adding another cube and doing something else to it. So that's it for this video. That was an extremely basic introduction to object and edit mode within Blender. So stick around for the next video and we'll get a little bit more in depth.